can't help you in upstate New York, making certain that they can talk to the same degree of expertise that you're able to on policy issues, though.
Elizabeth, you mentioned Vietnam as a cause célèbre for their generation, and I wonder what you hear about Iraq, and do you see Iraq as a women's issue?
Iraq is a women's issue. I mean, of course, women are serving in Iraq. One of the people actually appeared on CNN after the debate. And the following morning, I was on CNN with John Roberts, and standing next to me was Tali Karam, who was she flew F-16s. She was in the first 15 minutes of the Iraq War. She went in. Her job was to trigger the air defenses so that they could take out the surface-to-air missiles, so that so planes and could come in after them. So we have a lot of women who are serving. This is, of course, unusual in wars, American wars, since we don't have in the past had so many women serving. I think we have 10% or something of the combat troops in Iraq are women. I hope that's the right statistic, but certainly a larger number than we've seen before. And also, yesterday, the other 90% have often left women behind. Yesterday, in the North Country of New Hampshire, it was the fiance of someone serving in Afghanistan. Very often, it's the parent, the mother of a fallen soldier in Iraq. Earlier in that day, and so there, I've seen. I bet in 2004 I didn't have a single event where some woman did not cry in my arms about either the loss of her child or the fear for her child in Iraq. I think it's if they put the mothers in charge, there would be no wars. One of the reasons we don't, said it was a cause, I saw a great deal more involvement in wider involvement, a wider protest than even we see today. There's a pretty wide disagreement, but we saw more vocal protest when there was a draft, honestly. Not in favor of a draft, but it meant that everybody was at risk. I think actually it was Ross Perot who did it was in a room like this, but they were serving dinner, and they had a number of candidates talking about things, and he was talking about, I guess it must have been Iraq 1, and he said to the room, how many of you in the room, everybody, the people who are serving, everybody, how many people in this room have family members who are serving in Iraq or in that region? And no one sitting at a table raised their hand. And nearly everyone serving the tables did. The same thing is true today, of course. And if we want, what we need to do is take it personally when somebody else's child is there. And I think a lot of people don't. They don't see the faces I see. I wish they could. And they would take this war more personally, and we would have the cause, I think, at a wider level. We don't see it on the college level, I think, because those young people, thank goodness they're not at risk, but because they don't feel the same risk that college kids did when I was in school, honestly.
So we know that whatever issues we care most about as bloggers, whether we're Democrat, Republican, progressive, independent, green, etc., all the things that come up today, healthcare, childcare, education, poverty, the one thing that connects all of these issues is the way we get our information about these issues, is media, is the free flow of information. And we know at Women in Media and News and others in the media justice movement know that ever since the Telecom Act of '96, which was passed under the Clinton administration, we've seen a wave of media consolidation that has been so detrimental to the free flow of information, so detrimental to independent, non-commercial, non-corrupted information that we need to participate as informed members of a democracy, that we need to make concerted and that we basically need to be able to vote for whoever is the candidate that is going to represent our interests, whatever policies affect our local communities. So I guess what I want to know is, do you know what your husband's candidacy what the campaign is going to do, if there's a particular stance or what you think they may have as a particular stance around reversing the media consolidation and the negative effects of the Telecom Act of '96. Will the Edwards campaign take a stand, a strong stand for media policy reform?
John is very clear that he does not want Rupert Murdoch as the gatekeeper of information that comes to the American people. Not only is the consolidation that occurred under the Telecommunications Act bad, but then we have the FCC of this administration who is further compounding the problem. It would be John's desire to reverse all of that. Honestly, it's all of us see it in our own, even in our own communities, even in old media, the oldest media, even as our newspapers become no longer locally owned, but become our local newspaper, which used to be, I have to say, I'm a proud Democrat. These were a proud Democratic newspaper with not only opinions that were not sent through some washing machine to be devoid of any edge whatsoever, but also involvement in their communities and concern about local issues. Now we're a McClatchy paper, and honestly, they could put the banner at the top of the paper could be anything, any place at all, as long as the sports page was interchanged. It's been very bad for democracy. It's not just that it's conglomerates are bad. It's been very bad for democracy for precisely the reason you've suggested, which has made your jobs even more important because you're not subject to the same consolidations, which of course is another reason why net neutrality is so important. So we're not allowing single, powerful, well-financed voices to be the ones with the largest megaphones, and everybody else to be drowned out. So John has a very strong position on this. I actually don't know whether it's on the website, but if it's not on the website already for you to see, I will make certain that it is, because I know it is his position.
Anyone who wants to know more about the net neutrality issue, rather than getting into too much detail here, Laura Scott has blogged it on BlogHer.com. I want to mention right now, because I know there are fans of Rupert Murdoch's Fox News in the room, that when you hear an opinion, if there's something you disagree with or you want to follow up on the same issue, raise your hands. What I know from working with the BlogHer community, both on our BlogHer ads side, where you can ban products or companies you don't want to work with, and also on BlogHer.org, is that we're remarkably well dispersed across the spectrum of political opinion. So I'd like to hear lots of questions here today, and I'm going to ask you to raise your hands, and I'll...
Can I say something to you?
Yes.
That is, I don't agree with Rupert Murdoch, or Roger Ailes, but the problem isn't these particular human beings, although I think they are somewhat problematic, but it's that they are, that they are two human beings, and that their opinions should not carry the kind of weight. They should not be the sieve. None of us should be the sieve. I shouldn't be the sieve. I agree with me, as my father used to say all the time. I agree with me all the time, and I still don't think I should be the sieve through which all information comes to you. And so, it's actually, it's not, though I certainly would like a little needle, it's not actually a personal attack on Rupert Murdoch, but just on the process itself that puts any one human being in charge of so much of the information that we get.
So that's really interesting. I want to ask you, do you read both blogs by people who are Democratic or conservative, or progressive or liberal, as well as the other side of the aisle? And what are your three top blogs that you read on the news?
And I read so many different blogs, honestly, and I under my favorites list under blogs, but it's so long, and what I'll often do is I'll just sort of scroll down and hit one, and then from there I don't usually go then to another blog. I will follow links from one to another. I'll read down and something will interest me, and I'll follow to that one, and I'll follow to another one before I get interrupted by a 7-year-old.